果たす覚悟はできておるか。
覚悟はできておりまする。
Shogun has officially come to an end, and it's, an emotional ending, but I'm here to do a full spoiler review, talk about the whole series, and of course, that, game breaking finale. But before we get started, make sure to leave a like, helps it a lot. But, let's get right into it. I don't really have a lot to say before going into this. I just really want to get in this review because it's going to be long, so get a snack. But let's talk about Shogun. Leave your thoughts down below while I talk about this. My expectations going into this show were pretty low because I had zero expectations. I went in, reviewed the first two episodes because I thought that they were phenomenal. So I was hyped to continue watching weekly throughout the next, 8 weeks, 9 weeks of this show. And, nothing could have prepared me for how awesome and fantastic this show would have turned out. It's probably the best show I've seen since Arcane Season 1, or maybe it's probably one of the best shows I've seen all time. It can be compared to something like Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon, Breaking Bad, but you really can't compare it because it's also just a limited series, which in a way sucks because I would have loved to see more seasons. I would have loved to see more where these characters take us, but there is a true ending to the show that I did love. But it's just such a special show that I'll probably never forget the experience of watching this weekly, and that's why I love weekly releases. It's true weekly appointment television that is something that we've been missing for a while. HBO released Succession last year, the final season. Since that was over, we haven't had weekly television since this show. Now we have, this. Since this ended, we have X-Men 97, The Sympathizer, which are both great. And we have to look forward to June, The Boys, House of the Dragon Season 2. But this really was weekly television. I couldn't wait to, get on my TV, watch the newest episode every night when it dropped at midnight. It's something that, can't be said for a lot of other shows, a lot of Marvel shows. You don't really care to go back to it. You don't really, you don't really you clear your schedule to watch that newest episode. But for Shogun, I cleared my whole schedule. I cleared my whole day. I was like, I gotta watch Shogun, gotta watch these reactions to these episodes, gotta see the reviews because it's just a magnificent show. Some people might not like it because of the subtitles, but you can watch it dubbed on Hulu. But if you can, just open your mind, watch the subtitled version. It's a truly game-changing experience. I knew nothing about the Shogun story going into it. It's based off the Shogun book. I haven't read that before, so I knew nothing before going into it. And it wasn't difficult for me to get fully into this story because it was so interesting. You have a council of, regents. You have Toranaga going against them. You have John Blackhorn, who's also in the middle of all this drama. So there's so many storylines that you just get you so very interested. And I was just thrown aback by how much I started to really love these characters, love these storylines. It's something so special that you don't get to witness a lot of the times throughout your life. It's one of those one in a million shows that you get, and that's what this was. Limited series that was just so phenomenal, and the story just blew me away. Before we get fully into the spoilers of everything, including the finale, I do want to spend some time talking about the technical aspect of the show and the production and costume design. But before we get to that, let's talk about the cinematography. The cinematography and landscape over Osaka was terrific. I know it wasn't filmed in Osaka or Edo, but the visuals of this show made me want to go back in time and visit these places because, wow, the budgets used in this set design were transcending. It truly brought me into this world, which felt so real and so lived in, which is always so important to me when I'm watching visual medium like this, like a TV show or movie. Gotta feel real, gotta feel lived in. This does. I don't even know the budget on this, but it was used so well. The costumes are also something to marvel at, to really pay attention to, because the details are truly stunning. It looked like they took their time to get every character right, to get every costume correct from the culture. I see everyone from the show talking about it on interviews saying they really took their time to get it right. There's even videos on YouTube telling people, getting information out, what they did to get this culture right, information from so long ago. And the script, I think the script is what the show proves is so great, and it proves why a show needs a great script, because it's so important. Because people complain that there isn't enough action in the show, but I disagree, because the dialogue and trickery is what really made it so interesting to me. You don't need heavy action in your show to make it good. A great script can go a long way, and this one succeeded with getting me more interested in the characters and more fascinated with the story in here. It's what makes it so good. The dialogue in here is insane. It's so insane. It's so, kind of, so cool to look at also throughout all these lenses to see all these characters' motivations and everything. But man, this show kind of changed my life in a way, got me so emotionally invested. You know, if you weren't along with the weekly ride, that's all good. Start binging it. Literally binge the show whenever you get a chance. It's a perfect show. That's kind of like my non-spoiler review. Now we're going to get into spoilers on the finale. And it was a perfect finale, perfect conclusion to a perfect show. It can't be said enough. This is a true masterpiece of a television show. And yeah, I haven't really gave a TV show a review like this in so long. I haven't given, I don't even think on this channel I've given a TV show the praise of a masterpiece, you know, the words of a masterpiece, because it's hard to find a great show like that. Some shows just aren't made that way. And it ended all in just such a satisfying way that I didn't expect. I feel like this show, give it all the awards, give them all the awards. I don't know what they're going to be up for, you know, the Emmys and all that, but I know it's going to be up for limited series, limited actor, limited actress. I don't know who's going to be campaigning, but I just got to say, I don't care what other show is up for the limited series or limited actor and actress award. This show deserves to win all those awards, and if it doesn't, I'm raging. I'm going to be upset because I don't think you could even compare this show to any other limited shows this released this past year. It's in a whole nother different level. I mean, I kind of feel it'd be disrespectful to call it movie level show. It's like a 10-hour just masterpiece of an epic story that you're just watching and you're like, this, no way it can get better. And it truly does get better with almost every episode. Somehow this episode was more emotional than last episode. Last episode, episode 9, you had Marco's death, which was really emotional, but it just got me so emotional because you're saying goodbye to the show. You have to say goodbye to it after almost watching it for 2 months straight every single week. You know, it's still something that I'll come back to every single year. And you know, in about a month or two, I'm probably going to binge all 10 episodes when I have some couple days off. But it's just so sad to say goodbye to such an amazing show that you've just gotten so invested with all these characters, starting to love these characters, starting to love the relationships built within these characters. I think that's what made it so much more emotional. But I think what made it even more emotional was it dealt with the aftermath of Mariko's death, and seeing John deal with this kind of broke my heart, especially the scene on the boat where he just, you know, starts breaking down, starts crying, know that Mariko saved his life. It's just so upsetting. Then you have, you know, Yabishiki was, of course, ordered to die in this episode because of his treason, and Toranaga was his second. And, you know, it's a really sad death, even with the betrayal. Love that 10-minute scene of just them talking, you know, Toranaga's plan, how everything's going to work out. And he's like, unless I win, just like what John said in the end. And seeing John and Fuji finally reunite also had me hella emotional because we haven't seen Fuji since like episode 7 or episode 8. And him saying basically they had no translator just it hurts so much, you know, knowing that Mariko was the translator, always sat with him, and him saying no translator anymore. But he does know a lot now. He knows a lot. He knows how to speak to her. So that's just, it's so cool to see how much he's learned and how much he's grown. Fuji said that she had to leave to become a nun, and John orders her to stay because, you know, he doesn't want her to leave. He is losing everyone that he hated at first, but he has learned to love in the end. So heartbreaking to watch him lose her. You know, he tries to make her stay, which isn't something that he would normally do, but he doesn't want to leave her. He doesn't want to lose another friend. Let's just say that. She was his friend, and, you know, he doesn't want to lose her. It's so upsetting. That actually made me tear up because they're just such good friends now, even though she hated him and he didn't want anything to do with them. It's just now that they've all grown and had this relationship brew. It's something to really look at and just something to really enjoy. One of the best moments of this show in this episode was Kashigi asking John to surrender his sword and gun, and he does it. And if you look back earlier into this series, when Kashigi asked the same thing, John points the gun at him and doesn't do it. And this proves that John has just completely changed, and his ways have completely changed. And even Kashigi was thrown back by this. He was like, "What? What's going on here?" But wow, it's so cool. And then you have the extremely satisfying scene of Buntaro and John, you know, finally making peace after so long. They both bow at each other. Then you have that, you know, you finally get to the ending, and it just ends on the word Shogun. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's finally over. Did I want it to be over? No. I didn't even want to watch this episode because I didn't want the show to be over. I wanted it to truly keep living on for years and years, but it's only a limited series and it had to end. But it was a perfect ending. I do want to talk about the cast and top 5 characters for a little bit. It's truly an outstanding ensemble TV cast with everyone leaving a strong mark, even if they are only in it for one scene. And, we're going to go over my top 5 characters, and I will have a hard time pronouncing some of these actors' names. So I do apologize in advance. Top 5 characters. Let's do it. This is all personal opinion. Leave your top 5 down below. Number 5, though, is Fuji, played by Mocha Hoshi. Let's just say she probably had it the hardest from the beginning because her husband and only son had to die because her husband spoke out, during the first episode, and they had to kill both of them. When John becomes a Hatamoto, Fuji is almost forced to be his consort, which would make Fuji, John's the legal wife, so he can be Hatamoto, but because he has to marry into a samurai family kind of thing. And she was mostly housekeeper and friend to John because John didn't really want her. He wanted Mariko in the end. And I love Fuji, and I loved her relationship which brewed with John throughout the finale. And her facial expressions were always the highlight of seeing her. She was just such a fun character to see, such a happy character throughout most of the time. Really did love her a lot. Number 4, I had Yabushiki, played by Tadanobu Asano. As much as I hated his character after episode 9 during his, pretty much second betrayal in the series against Toranaga and company, I can't lie and say that his charisma and charm brought to his character from Tanabu is truly something amazing, and is why I loved his character even during his evil things that he was doing, the multiple double and triple crossing that he did. I just loved when he joked a lot and tried to, have conversations with John, even though John could not understand a single word that he was saying. I thought he was just a very funny character, and I thought his actor did a great job conveying his, emotions. And number 3, you'll probably be surprised, but it's Toranaga, played by the legend himself, Hiroyuki Sanada. Everyone's probably raging, being like, why is Toranaga so low? Well, the top 3 for me are basically tied, as much as I love Toranaga, so don't worry. I kind of feel bad for not knowing who Hiroyuki Sanada was before I saw Bullet Train and John Wick 4. Finally took notice for him after John Wick 4 because he was just so cool. I saw his IMDb. This man has worked for a long time, but he finally gets his flowers after doing this because he has a really big part in making this show. Plays, he's basically the lead of it, and he has a sole producer credit. And Toranaga is a man of trickery and a master of planning. Even by the beginning of the series, when he has to sneak out of Osaka, and when he's helping John, when he's not helping John, we finally knew that Toranaga had a plan back in Osaka, but he's tricking everyone. It's so interesting to see this character and how he works, how he tricks everyone, but how he lets people in on his plan slightly. I really did love that. Hiroyuki Sanada did a fantastic job portraying him. He's going to be up for some awards. Hopefully he does win some. I think Toranaga did a great job with his eye acting too. He sold a lot with his eyes because he didn't really emote a lot. Toranaga is pretty, peaceful man in a way. Didn't really sell his emotions, but Hiroyuki Sanada's eye acting was truly something to really look at, and I thought he was phenomenal. Number 2 favorite character for me is Mariko, played by Anna Sawai. I just want to say that I've been watching some interviews with Anna Sawai, and she seems really nice and so down to earth, so sweet. She does a really good job at portraying this character and explaining the show and the culture on these talk shows. Anna is probably the best actress, probably the best actress, in this show because she's the main actress. And I know her the most from Monarch and F9. And I think I really got interested in Mariko once she became the sole translator for John, because both kind of those cultures clashing. She got to teach him some stuff. He got to teach her some stuff. And I really did love her relationship with John after it bruised after that, kind of like the romance element. I do want to talk about some favorite scenes with her. When she went into John's room, they made love, and she didn't even act like it was her. That first scene where they finally first kissed. Oh, what a beautiful scene. Then one of my favorite scenes with her is the tea scene with Buntaro, because Buntaro offers to make some tea for her, which is a sign of respect. He's trying to win her back after Buntaro, beats her, because Buntaro isn't really a nice husband to her in episode 5. Buntaro asks, Mariko that they both commit a seppuku together, that Mariko denies him, which is basically them dying with each other, suiciding. She says, I would live 1,000 years living in shame than entering the afterlife with you. She breaks his heart, basically, because he doesn't care for her, probably has feelings, but it's not mutual, and he has evil in him that she can't look past. So that was such a heartbreaking scene. Then, the most heartbreaking scene was probably the death of Mariko, first near-death experience where she commits seppuku, and Blackthorn is there to basically act as her second, but she finally she gets out of that. But then later that night, John and Mariko lay with each other for the last time, which is so sad. But then she dies to the explosives. It's a violent death. It's a very sad death. Had me almost tear up because I just loved her so much. But her death, had a big purpose. Her character had a big purpose. Anna Sawai played it perfectly. Then my favorite character of Shogun is John Blackthorne, played by Cosmo Jarvis. And we're probably all saying the same thing. we didn't know who Cosmo Jarvis was before this, but after this, I'm gonna have to take a full look at him, see what he's gonna be in next, because it's his first major role other than he has small credits on the IMDb. He also is known for music, and he seems quite reserved in his interviews for Shogun. So I was surprised to see him play such an extrovert like John Blackthorne so well. But why I put him at number one is I think Cosmo Jarvis gives the best performance in this show. Truly blown away by how great he was and how great he's able to convey his emotions in here, because he has so many different emotions throughout the show. Starts as like the English pilot who crashes into this mess in Japan. He's soon launched in this political battle of trickery. We get to see him gain relations with Toranaga, Mariko, and Fuji and learn the ways in their languages. And he had so many standout scenes. It's so hard to kind of pick all of them. I was so impressed with it. I think I was most impressed with him in the finale, Cosmo Jarvis in the finale. His acting there was the most impressive for me. So emotional for his character to go through all these different things, go through all these different relationships, learn to truly change, learn the cultures and all that. It's so interesting to see how a character can change from being evil to being loved by these characters, and to truly start loving all these other characters that he meets, like Mariko and Fuji, and in some ways Toranaga. So that seeing his character mature and all that throughout the finale, throughout the 10-episode run, was truly something to marvel at. He was funny, passionate, badass, and smart in the battlefield. That's why John is my favorite character of Shogun. But yeah, Shogun, it's my favorite show of the year so far. I don't see anything really beating this. It's a masterpiece. One of the best pieces of television that I've seen throughout my whole entire lifeline. Breaking Bad will always be my favorite show of all time because, that show kind of changed my life. But this show, I think it might be my second favorite show of all time. I can't wait to rewatch it. Can't wait to binge it. If you haven't seen it by now, you got to get on it. It's clearly a winner, and it deserves to win all the Emmys. It deserves to win all the awards. Just give it all the awards. But Shogun, it deserves it, and it gets a strong 10 out of 10 from me. It's a perfect show. Probably perfect adaptation for anyone who's read the book. I got to pick up the book because I thought this was a masterpiece. So yeah, if you did love Shogun, leave your thoughts down below in the comments. If you haven't seen it yet, tell me why in the comments. But if you did enjoy this review, make sure to leave a like on this video. Come back for other videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.